Hi, everyone. My name is Tabatha Rood. I am the Rogue Basin CFLRP coordinator, currently working with the Southern Oregon Forest Restoration Collaborative and Rogue Forest Partners on project management for the Rogue Basin Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program. I wanted to record a small bit on a little bit of the history of the CFLRP, some context on the Rogue Basin program, and some of the efforts that we're making to broaden our engagement on the program across the Rogue Basin in support of the Rogue River-Siskiyou to meet their treatment targets as proposed in the original funding of this program. I will say that the funding moving forward is uncertain for several reasons, like many federal programs at this time. However, we have a really strong foundation with the Rogue Basin strategy here and a long history of partnership working together that we hope to utilize and strengthen despite uncertainty over the coming months and years. So thanks for taking a look at this. And I'm going to share my screen to give a little bit of context to the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program, as well as orient you to the Rogue Basin CFLRP, that acronym, and how you can get involved with your organization to contribute to our treatment targets throughout the basin, as well as access either some funding directly from the Rogue River-Siskiyou National Forest or collaboratively leverage funding for projects that meet the objectives of the Rogue Basin strategy with the Rogue Forest Partners. So without further ado, the first thing I'm going to share is the map of the Rogue Basin Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program, as well as the original proposal that was submitted in 2018 for consideration. The Rogue Basin CFLRP originally proposed for $39.8 million between 2020 and 2030. The original request for $39.8 million was significantly reduced when the program was funded in 2021. This program has been very successful at leveraging collaborative resources and funding across especially the West, and is one of a kind in terms of promising federal funds and with match requirements for collaborative partners. So this proposal, the Rogue Basin CFLRP, is fundamentally based on the Rogue Basin Cohesive Forest Restoration Strategy, also known as the Rogue Basin Strategy, which was completed in 2017 as a 20-year strategy to reduce the threat of severe wildfires and promote climate adaptation in forests by reducing risk to natural resources and communities. This includes a 4.6 million acre landscape in Southwest Oregon, which I will show in a moment, really focused on 5 landscape scale objectives: wildfire risk reduction, unique habitat maintenance, watershed health, etc. There were some revisions to this original proposal with the funding, which reduced the request or the allocated funds from about 40 million down to 30 million. And so some of the treatment targets have been adjusted since then. But this map that is at the top of the page, the purple boundary here is the CFLRP landscape. It was one of the largest proposals at its of its time and continues to be one of the largest proposals. As you can see, going from north of Crater Lake all the way to and into California on the Wild Rivers Ranger District of the Rogue River-Siskiyou National Forest. The Rogue River-Siskiyou is the administrator of these CFLRP funds. And as partners, as the Rogue Forest Partners party to this project, they help to collaboratively manage and prioritize funding of these projects that apply to the program throughout the Rogue Basin. One of the efforts that we're making with this clip and with the newsletter that you're receiving is trying to incorporate more partners throughout the Rogue Basin and capture more of the treatments that are happening across the landscape, especially in times of federal funding uncertainty. Regardless of the outcome of funding for the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program nationwide and locally, there is still a need to reduce wildfire risk throughout the Rogue Basin, and plenty of need to increase our riparian restoration efforts for watershed health and community health. And so we're really hoping to engage with more people outside of the Rogue Forest partners, as well as collect projects that are ripe for funding, collaborative funding in the future. I'm going to switch my screen to the updated work plan to share the treatment targets that apply. Some of the other basics of the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program is that the funding is specifically tied to implementation and monitoring. It's one of the few programs that actually supports monitoring for adaptive management, and which makes it a very unique and flexible funding source, with the caveat that it also requires a significant amount of match from private and non-federal funds. So there is a 50% match requirement along with implementation and monitoring of CFLRP projects, and those being small P projects, the Rogue Basin CFLRP being a larger capital P project of the Rogue Forest Partners. So I've shared this map with you. Again, the work plan was a revision of the original proposal when funding was allocated for the program in 2022, for the first year in 2022. And the screen I'm sharing now is actually our treatment targets, core restoration treatment types, and the targets that are expected of the program over the 10-year lifespan, being from 2021, 2022 to 2031, 2032. There is some portion of the legislation that requires these targets be met. If they are not met consecutively for 3 years, there is some risk of losing funding. Considering the uncertainties we're dealing with now, I think we are in a place of trying to meet these as best as we can. And in some categories, we've absolutely are ahead of the targets, and in others, we are a little behind. Nevertheless, the green columns that you see here were adjustments to the original proposal, which again requested $39 million. The funding that came through was closer to 30, and so there was an approximate 30% reduction in all treatment targets over the landscape. And these columns and these restoration treatment types are the types of activities we are trying to track over the entire Rogue Basin CFLRP landscape. That being National Forest Service land, BLM land, private land, state land, you name it. If you are working in these areas of restoration, your contributions to the Rogue Basin and the overall objectives of the Rogue Basin strategy do matter. And whether they apply directly to the Forest Service report card or just generally to the strength of partnerships in Southwest Oregon, we want to know about it. So I hope that's a good context overview of what we have going on in terms of the Rogue Basin CFLRP program. We are in year 4 of implementation of this program, and there has been some really incredible work done to connect disparate partners, and we want to keep that up. One of the links that you'll see in the newsletter is the reporting form, and each year, as a requirement of receiving CFLRP funds, there is an annual report due to the Washington office for USDA and the Forest Service on the impact of these funds throughout the service area and throughout the landscape that the project is focused on. So I do my best to kind of limit the length of this survey while providing some contextual links, including the Rogue Basin strategy, and kind of as a carrot to filling out this reporting form, we also have future funding requests. And so I'll share that link after this. This basic survey is intended to gather work happening within the purple polygon, this whole Rogue Basin, who you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how long you intend for it to occur or you foresee it happening. So hopefully these are self-explanatory. We are also capturing like community engagement because they are socioeconomic goals associated with the CFLRP program as it nationwide, including a focus on local impact for local contractors and workforce. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or the Rogue Forest Partners inbox for input here. But you do have the ability to select a polygon of influence here. So I live out here in Gold Beach, and the Forest Collaborative that I'm involved in has, some prescribed burns happening out here. And so I would select this area near Agnes to report on any prescribed burn activities. There's a field here for land jurisdiction, as well as some questions about how you are implementing this project. What kind of services are you providing? Who are you working with? And again, getting at the local impact. There, you can upload up to 100 megabytes of photos, indicate where you're getting your funding from, how much it's costing you, if you're making any money, any other links or lessons learned that you want to share or reports that your organization has put together. This is a free space to include that information. And considering the uncertainty with this program and other funding, how likely is your activity to continue in this funding environment currently? So again, hopefully very straightforward, trying to broaden our understanding of everyone working in this huge landscape that may or may not be already attending the Rogue Forest Partners meetings or be affiliated with that group in any way. As I mentioned, there's also a funding request form. This video will be the one you're watching right now. And it's designed to capture not only fiscal year 26 CFLRP specific funding requests, but out year funding for implementation or monitoring of CFLRP projects in the Rogue Basin. And so we are trying to see how these projects are consistent with funding guidelines of the program, as well as contributions to ecological, social, and/or economic targets that are outlined in that full proposal linked here, the revised work plan, and ultimately tiered to that Rogue Basin strategy. I really try to stress here the fact that we do not have certainty in funding of this program moving forward at a nationwide scale. And while we cannot promise any funding through submitting this form, this will greatly help us as a basin and as a landscape to amalgamate funding requests and see where there are geographic overlaps or organizational capacity overlaps that would allow us to find funding outside of the CFLRP program as necessary moving forward, or efficiently deliver funding to multiple organizations working towards similar objectives moving forward. So all of your requests that would be applicable to this program are welcome. I just will really want to stress that we are not promising any funding, especially at this time. Again, this should be pretty simple. I try to waste as little of your time as possible. Where is this located? What's the nature of your project? When you'd like to be implementing it? How much funding? Do you have any match? What type of project is it? And how are you contributing to the Rogue Basin strategy and the Rogue Basin CFLRP? The targets, again, are repeated here, so you can look at the core restoration actions that we're looking for and select one or many of those that your project would contribute to. We are also trying to get at what your existing relationship is with the Rogue River-Siskiyou in terms of reducing paperwork or helping to ease administrative burdens on behalf of a very stressed and lacking capacity staff in many areas, in terms of your agreement status or your history of working with the Rogue River-Siskiyou. So again, I hope this is a very simple way for you to start engaging with the Rogue Basin CFLRP. We really appreciate everyone's work in natural resources, and everything from workforce development to riparian restoration is an important aspect of the success of this program and the resilience of the Rogue Basin moving forward from here.